Start now. I'm Don Reed. I served in the Navy about 2.5 years, World War II, partly in Europe for 6 months or so, and about 1 year devoted to coming back from the Pacific. My service was aboard LST, the landing ship detachment. If you can imagine a ship that looks about like the carrier here. Can you hear me all right? Am I supposed to talk too fast? You wouldn't believe I was selling that in my church about 25 years. Still don't allow that to sound. But one of the sides of this carrier here, and built along about the same lines as the carrier, we had, instead of a hangar deck like this, we had a tank deck. And our main deck then was not where aircraft got on cargo. During the war, there were 1,051 LSTs were built. Of those, 113 went to the British Navy. In the U.S. Navy, we ended up with about 893 built as United States LSTs. And of those 893 serving exclusively in Europe were 159 of them. That was 18% of the LST fleet, I think. 653 served exclusively in the Pacific, and 75, about 8%, served in both, first in Europe, then the Pacific. We were one of those 8% that served in both. We were a little late in getting into the war. We were built outside of Boston, down to Chesapeake Bay then, to be outfitted for service in the Pacific. During the 2 months prior to the time we were built in Boston, all the LSTs were sent to the Pacific, none to Europe. They had as many as they needed there. So there we were, Chesapeake Bay, almost ready to go to the Pacific, outfitted, provisioned. We had Pacific camouflage paint on us. And in came orders that said, at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, there's a secret cargo urgently needed at Normandy. Now, D-Day had happened, but they needed 2 LSTs to carry the secret cargo that was needed at Normandy, and we were one of the 2 that was designated. So that quickly changed our colors overnight. Pacific camouflage, repainted as gray, went to Philadelphia, picked up the cargo, which occupied almost in total deck space on top, up to New York, during the largest convoy to cross during the Atlantic during the war. 17 days at sea, mostly aboard them, a nice safe convoy. We had a nice Canadian escort before we ended in Liverpool 17 days later with our cargo. A couple of days in Liverpool, and then we'd take the cargo down to the south coast of England, where we was in Normandy, and carry it over to Normandy. And in doing that, ourselves and our sister ship, the USS 921, built the same time as we were, and have been traveling, doing everything together. By the time we were built, until the time we got over there to Liverpool, for 7 weeks. We headed from Liverpool to go down, deliver our secret cargo to the Normandy area, and on the way down, we got orders to put in overnight off the Bristol Channel. There was activity, submarine activity, which we learned later had sunk a Canadian corvette on a merchant ship 1 week earlier. They told us to put in overnight then, just for safety reasons, in Milford Haven, Wales, which we did. We left the next morning from Milford Haven and joined a small convoy coming out of the Bristol Channel. Within about 1 hour, in that, we had our moment of terror when a German U-boat got us, and the LST 921 was behind us. Actually, we had always traveled together up to that point, ourselves trailing behind the 921. When we fell into this convoy, we traded positions, so we were ahead of the 921. 921 was the last one in the line of about a dozen ships. German U-boat, U-667, targeted our sister ship, struck her midships, and the stern sank. Within 5 minutes, the vessel ahead of us, a small British landing craft, infantry, much smaller than ourselves, took a torpedo. So we had the ship ahead of us, one behind us, both had been torpedoed. Now, I'm not trying to say that our ship was an outstanding heroic ship of the war, but this is just our view of one episode that happened during the war. We lost our sister ship, the one ahead of us. We broke the convoy against the orders of the convoy commander. We stayed around that area for the next 4 hours picking up survivors. And so we were shoulder to shoulder with the U-boat, We managed to salvage 65 from our sister LST and about a dozen British sailors from the British ship. And so our sister ship lost about 45 crew members. We continued on in the convoy then. What was left of it, well behind the convoy, and a single small British escort escorting us, and made our completed the journey to the south coast of England with the cargo we had discharged. And well, the next several weeks then, doing various jobs between southern England ports and Normandy. Our first time in Normandy, though, we landed at Utah Beach, ran across the obstruction that was on the beach, and flooded our main engine, which made these beautiful monster V12, 2 diesel V12 engines. Useless. We had to be towed back to Southampton for about 6 weeks of overhaul there, so we a little bit embarrassed ourselves by doing that. But we were fortunate that we were able to be there, and against orders, welcoming convoy, saving the fleet, but we did save the torpedoing. We were not in Europe for too long before, for some reason, we received orders to come back to station to prepare ourselves for the Pacific. So we came back, fortunately got 30 days leave to do so. And with orders to, and we changed the color then to the Pacific color, through the canal. Our ship usually was frequently getting special treatment one way or the other. Most ships were going directly from the canal up to San Diego, then out to the Pacific. We were ordered to go up to Seattle, where we entered some fresh water, Lake Washington. I got a cargo that was destined then for Okinawa. The invasion had taken place at Okinawa. We were not there in the initial invasion, but we were there during hostilities. 17 days again across waters to finally get through Pearl Harbor. We stop at Enuita and deliver the cargo, which is airfield, the construction equipment for the Army for the island of Aishima just off of Okinawa. We thought we'd be engaged in Okinawa resupply for quite a while. But instead of that, we got immediate orders to leave the Okinawa area while those hostilities were still going on and head down to Guadalcanal, or rather to the Solomons, the Russell Islands down there, and also to Numi and New Caledonia. We weren't sure what for, but we did. That's what the order said. We learned that there's coming down, getting cured from about pneumonia. Not totally cured, there was a facility in the Solomons then for making pontoons that were lashed to the sides of LSTs, almost a full length, outboard, and they served and linked together as artificial docks in landing areas where there were no facilities. We lashed these things to the side of our ship. We already had on our main deck an LCT, which is a landing craft, harbor craft, about 1/3, 1/4 size of an LST. We had a whole intact LCT up on our main deck that was given to us at Norfolk and been carrying it. So by the time we got the LCT on deck there, still carrying it, and the pontoon on the side, it became obvious they were grooming us for something big that was coming up. Well, we had a lot of zigzagging around. We ended up at the Bikini Atoll, where we took anchorage. And there's a picture, it used to be in the wardroom down here, a famous picture of 5 carriers, an anchor in Ulithi, awaiting mobilizing for the assault on mainland Japan. And we were anchored about 1 mile away from where those 5 carriers were all lined up. One of the carriers was our Hornet here. And there we were waiting, not sure just what and when the bomb was dropped in Japan. And that marked the end of hostilities. And our part of becoming one of the invading armada for the invasion of mainland Japan was dissolved. And everybody thought, hey, we're going home right away. Well, it didn't quite work that way. That was in September 2nd, the Marine papers were signed. We were in the Far East going between hip-hopping from one fort to another, doing duties as required for about 6 more months of April, the following year before we came back home again. So we had 6 months beyond the war that kept us busy. What do we do at Okinawa? Heroics, some kamikazes were around, but fortunately we had plenty of advance warning. We had good fog generators. By the time the kamikazes came near to us, we couldn't even see a hand in front of our face for the fog that was created by the very efficient fog generators. So we missed any hazards of the kamikazes that were attacking. I had the itinerary what we did for the next 6 months. Unfortunately for you, I left my home, which would have just taken more time than a lot of it anyway. But it was a lot of hopping around between Okinawa, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, Iwo Jima, Busan, Korea, Incheon, Korea, and ports of China at Taku and Tsingtao. Twice from Tsingtao, we took on 1,000 passengers, Japanese being repatriated, either military or civilians, and of course we wanted to get them back to their homeland and out of the occupied territory as fast as possible. So we took on 1,000 at a time. It was a little bit inconvenient, the size of our LST. Managed to ferry them back over to Japan and took them back to their homeland, whether they wanted to or not. To go through a small variety of things here without any particular order. What we carried to Europe in that secret cargo was had the code name of structural steel egg crates. They're big pontoon-like structures off the side of a barn. They would float. The Germans had been dropping what they called an oyster mine or a pressure mine around Normandy that would detonate from the pressure of a vessel going over them. It was giving them much trouble at Normandy. At some point, they were reducing the speed of all vessels in the Normandy water down to 3 knots. They'll go over 3 knots to avoid triggering those mines. And the mines were unsweepable. No way to sweep them until they came up with this device, which is the reason they needed originally in Normandy. The reason that we got our special orders in to not go to the Pacific, but to go to Normandy, carry that over there. It wasn't until many years later that we learned just really what that secret cargo was. In extending the life of beyond the war, 6 months in the Pacific, one bad incident did occur when some LCTs, small harbor craft, our LST was one of 3 that were beached, and a group of LCTs nearby that were engaged in dumping ammunition at sea and just getting rid of it. One of the LCTs caught fire, and in about 15 minutes the thing exploded. The whole thing went up in a terrific explosion, and we were the center LST adjacent to those. They weren't badly hurt. A number of people were hurt. The LSTs adjacent to us lost 7 persons, and the LCT crews lost 3 LCTs that were destroyed, about 14 or 15. So here it was on January 2nd, after the war had ended, and all had been ended for 4 months. We had 14, 15 American servicemen, mostly Navy men, Seabees, and so forth, that were killed as a result of the war, just as badly as they'd been there in combat engagements. I have a number of pictures here in front of me, wherever I am after I sit down, and showing some of these incidents. The incident with the sinking of a U-boat was written up in Sea Classics magazine. And what I've submitted down here this is what an LST is, 328 feet long, 50 feet wide. I have a lot of tons with me. Thank you all for your attendance.